Hey everyone, welcome to week 5 and our Monday night webinar live from my living room. So amazing to see some of you guys jumping on today, posting photos of your stage 3 meals that you're making and all your meal prep. Welcome everyone, jump on, say hi. How is everyone feeling? We've got a big topic tonight. I know we were meant to be talking about gut health, but we've decided to jump ship and talk a little bit about weight loss and our expectations for Cracker, some of the reasons why you might not be losing as much weight as what you wanted. We're going to reset the tone, we're going to lift our spirits, and we're going to look forward to stage 3. So if someone can jump on and give me a like and a wave and say hi, let me know that you can hear me, and then we will get started. One of the things that I thought was important to mention tonight, guys, is you're just about a month through. That's huge. You know, we're into week 5. We've got 2 weeks to go. This is the time when we drive it home. This is my favorite part of Cracker because for most of us, this is when you're feeling really good, you're training harder, you're feeling fitter and stronger, you've learned so much about your body, and this is really the time that you get to embrace that. You get to enjoy what it feels like to train in a strong body. You get to enjoy all the healthy recipes in the meal plan and pick and choose what you like. You get to really learn how to sustain this long term. Hey Mandy, hi Kira, how you going? Hey Kel. So yeah, tonight's topic, guys, is not just about weight loss. We're going to talk about muscle gains as well, but I'm going to cover some of the big myths for you guys, really give you my take on things. We're going to talk a little bit about what affects weight loss. We're going to talk about what healthy weight loss is, what is a sustainable and reasonable amount that we can expect on Cracker, because we have common sense and reasonable goals, and then we have, you know, in our minds where we want to get to, and sometimes we have to come back and just adjust those expectations and also remember how far we've come, right? It's not always about getting to the end of the finish line. It's also about remembering how far we've come and how good we've done so far. We're going to talk about non-scale wins. We're going to get away from the scales for a minute, and we're going to talk about all the other wins that you can celebrate in terms of your body and how you're feeling. But first of all, I want you guys to talk to me. Of course, you can always ask questions. If you've got questions about stage 3, I'll answer those for you. Hey, Erica. Hi, Kerry. I'll answer any questions that you guys have, so just chuck them down in the comments. So by now, guys, we're well into stage 3. This is really the time that you want to drive home towards your goals, okay? So in a general nutshell, by the time we get to stage 3, we don't want to be overeating. We certainly don't want to be snacking unless we need to. The treat recipes are there purely just for treats. We don't want to be having those every day. We'll talk about fasting in a minute, but when we break our fast or when we start our day with breakfast, we want to be starting with a good hit of protein and healthy fats. We want to be eating when we're hungry, stopping when we're full. We want to be fueling our workouts correctly, and we definitely want to be hitting our protein goals as much as we possibly can. So hitting your protein goals through the meals and also through supplementing with protein powders and amino acids. That's ultimately what's going to get us there. Also, don't forget, guys, I did my seminar on sleep. So those of you who attended that or have watched it back, you will know that we touched on the importance of sleep when it comes to hitting your goals. Ain't nothing gonna happen unless we're sleeping and resting. So if you didn't see that video, please jump in and watch it back. This is the perfect time in stage 3 to start bringing in some extra strategies like fasting for those who are doing weight loss, or extra sleep and extra recovery, those protein goals that you might not be hitting. You can track your meals and see how you're going. If you're not sure, track them in an app like MyFitnessPal or Carbon is really good. So moving into stage 3, guys, you can use any of the recipes from stage 1 and 2, okay? But really, really sticking to those savory options for breakfast is my best advice. Not snacking or having too many treats, certainly nothing in excess of what you really, really feel you need, okay? Making sure that you hit your protein goals. Coffee is still 1 a day. If you are doing fasting, and I'll talk about fasting in a minute, then it's black coffee, okay? For those of you guys that are having breakfast, if you want to have a splash of almond milk in your coffee, don't go 250 mils of milk, but if you want to have a splash of almond milk, that's totally fine. But 1 coffee a day we're still sticking to, okay? Guys, if you are doing fasting, so we'll talk about that quickly. Intermittent fasting is an option in stage 3. It's not compulsory, but if you're wanting to lose weight, it's an efficient way to restrict your window of eating. I want you guys to hear what I'm saying, okay? Fasting is not always about calorie restriction. It's a good way to restrict your window of eating so that the time during the day that you're eating is shorter and the time that your body is burning its own fat stores is longer, okay? We don't want you guys going completely under on your calories. It is a good way to restrict the amount of food that you're eating if you're a constant snacker and picker. But really what intermittent fasting does best is it shortens the window that your body is processing the food in your mouth, and it lengthens the window that your body is utilizing your own fat stores for energy. So in stage 2, we use the bulletproof coffee with that little bit of fat as a way to keep our blood sugar levels stable while we were fasting until our next meal. In stage 3, you guys can do true fasting if you're wanting to lose weight and give it a go. Now, 16 to 18 hours is ideal. So you might stop eating at 6 or 7 o'clock the night before, and then you don't have your first meal until mid-morning. But really, guys, any amount of time for weight loss where you're not constantly putting food in your mouth, that can be counted as well. So if you don't get to 16 or 18 hours and you make it to 15 or 14, that's absolutely okay, all right? Whatever feels good for you. Those guys who are doing strength and hypertrophy, just know, I will come back to your questions, just know that I don't advocate heavy fasting unless you're drinking a lot of amino acids while you're doing it, but it's really not a good idea if you're wanting to gain that we're restricting. So you guys just stick to the meal plan, hit your protein goals, and you'll be good. For those of you guys who are doing weight loss, but you're wanting to maintain your muscle mass, you're not wanting to lose any muscle, the best way to hack it is to add amino acids, the essential amino acids we've provided, into your water while you're fasting. That will help to preserve your muscle mass so your body will not break down muscle for fuel, and it will help it to burn fat for fuel instead. Okay, so hopefully if you guys have questions on fasting, just ask them. I'll go back to a couple now, but it's an option if you want to, as a way to restrict the time that your body's burning the food in your mouth and increase the time that your body's burning its own fat stores. When you break your fast, you go into normal eating. You're eating 2 good meals in a day and or a couple of protein shakes to get you through. And if you wake up in the morning and you're starving hungry and you plan to fast, you just have breakfast. It's okay. You can try again the next day. All right. Kira said, is muscle mass harder to gain than weight loss? Yes and no, Kira. I'm going to cover that in a minute. The amount of it's easier to lose more grams of weight than to put on the same amount of grams of muscle, but it really just depends on the individual body and the kind of training that you're doing. So Kerry said, if you're not getting hungry, just don't eat. In a nutshell, Kerry, I don't want you not eating all day. So the maximum for fasting is 16 to 18 hours. If you have a meal and then that sees you right through until dinner, there's no need for an afternoon snack, is what I'm saying. If you have 2 meals a day and you're feeling completely full and comfortable, you're hitting your goals on cracker, you're not feeling depleted, that's absolutely fine. The meal plan is designed that the meals are nutrient dense enough to keep you going for longer, okay? So listen to your hunger cues, but I don't want anyone eating less than 2 meals a day, please, guys. That's important. If you restrict your calories too much, you'll have the opposite effect. Your metabolism will slow down and you'll put on weight and you'll hate me. So 16 to 18 hours of fasting, you break your fast with your first good meal of healthy proteins and fats, and then you don't eat again until you're hungry. And that might be when you have your second meal. Okay. Gemma, you've been doing the amino acids without knowing it. That's amazing. All right, guys. So that's basically a nutshell looking at stage 3. For everybody else who's not doing fasting, you stick to the meal plan, all the guidelines that we've talked about, and we just want to drive it home to our goals. Enjoy all that beautiful food, enjoy your training, enjoy your bodies, get around your community, and let's just have an amazing 2 weeks together. Right, into tonight's topic. I'm talking fast because we've got a lot to cover. We're talking about weight loss tonight. We're talking about what's a sustainable amount of weight loss that you can expect on Cracker. Hey, Kel. We're talking about celebrating the non-scale wins. I'm going to touch on Carly's beautiful post about hormones. Girls, listen up. Get your pens and paper out. I do hormones every day in my practice. And there's so much that we can learn about. I'm going to teach you guys why you might have some stubborn fat that's not shifting, what are the reasons why our body might not be losing weight, and we're also just going to come back and remember why we're here and readjust those expectations, make sure that we're celebrating the wins that we're having and not hammering ourselves about the ones that we're not. But talking about weight loss, guys, so first thing that we wanted to touch on, the guys at Life and Soul and I, is just to remind you what a healthy weight loss amount is, okay? So generally speaking, a sustainable amount of weight loss that you can continue with, that will be safe for your body and will not lead you to yo-yo and put it all back on, a sustainable amount of weight loss is around 500 grams a week, half a kilo a week. Now, in the beginning, you will lose more. Some people will lose more because you lose a lot of inflammation. You might have had a lot of water weight. You might have had a lot of pounds in your bowel sitting in there. So it's normal in the beginning to lose a bit more than that 500 grams a week. But when we say 500 grams a week, we're talking about an average. It's not going to be 500 grams every week, and I'm going to talk to you about why, okay? So if we think that we've been doing Cracker for 4 weeks now, and I'm saying to you guys, I work with my clients, weight loss in my practice is 500 grams a week. That's what we're aiming for on average. So we've been doing Cracker for 4 weeks now. That means that if you've lost 2 kilos, if you're doing weight loss, right? We're talking about that. If you've lost 2 kilos, you're doing amazing. You're right on track. Coupled with the fact that you're feeling better and sleeping better and training harder, if you've lost 2 kilos at this point, you are doing amazing. Now, there's a caveat to that. If you've lost 1 kilo, but you've gained 1 kilo of muscle, that's another amazing win to celebrate, and not just because you've gained muscle and lost weight, because you've raised your metabolic rate. So from now on, your body's going to be able to burn more fat easily because you're increasing your muscle mass, okay? And this is why we encourage you guys to not just rely on the bathroom scales. We're going to dive really deep into this tonight, right? But we've got to be looking at things like how our clothes fit. We've got to be looking at measurements, and we've got to be using those body scans as an indicator, okay? Because the fat on our body is not just the fat that you can see that you don't like. I know that's the fat that we want to move. It's also the fat around your organs. It's the internal fat that we need to worry about as well. So generally speaking, guys, for weight loss, 500 grams a week on average. So if you saw your scales go zoop like this, by a kilo or a kilo and a half, and then you had 500 grams and now you've had nothing, calculate your average, and then let's dive into some reasons if you're not on track. If you've lost 4 or 5 kilos in 4 weeks, this is incredible. You're way ahead of track. In fact, I'd say, whoa, let's slow down a bit. Maybe you need to do some different kind of training, get some muscle on board. So that's the first thing, guys, is just understanding that 500 grams a week is really where it's at, okay? Of course, if we go on an extreme Weight Watchers diet and we heavily restrict our calories and we run 11 Ks every day, we're going to lose a lot more weight, but we're not going to keep it off and we're not going to be healthy. Okay, so 500 grams a week on average. Now, we talk about muscle gains, guys. I did some good research on this today just to make sure that I was coming back to you correctly. For a beginner, somebody who is on a strength program as a beginner, you can expect to gain between 200 and 250 grams of muscle a week. Now, that's a generous figure, okay? A generous figure, 200 to 250 grams of muscle a week. That's someone who's a beginner. For somebody who's intermediate or advanced, those numbers get lower and lower. It can get harder and harder to gain muscle, all right? So it's easier for the body to lose weight than it is to gain muscle in a sense, all right? But when you're looking at the numbers, if I've said to you, right, let's go roughly 500 grams a week for weight loss, 200 to 250 grams a week for muscle gains. So if you were to look at your body over the course of the last 4 weeks, perhaps you had lost 2 kilos of weight, of fat, but you've gained a kilo of muscle, which is going to raise your metabolism, keep you leaner and stronger and burning fat for longer, then your average, when you look at the scales, is only going to be a kilo. If you're just using the scales as your guide, okay, you're going to go, oh, I lost 1 kilo. It's not really that much. But if you had a body scan, or you did your measurements, or you put your clothes on, you had a look at how you're feeling, or you lifted something heavy in the gym, went, geez, I'm a lot stronger, you'd understand that your body composition is so much more than what the scales say, all right? So the scales should have gone out in the 90s and the late 80s, way back then. I know it's important to all of us though. That's why we say 500 grams a week on average is what you're aiming for. Okay. Let's dive into some of the reasons why the body can get stubborn about losing weight, right? So in the beginning, you might lose some weight and then you plateau. Or you might struggle to lose weight from the beginning. Or you might feel like you're one of those people who does everything right. You're sleeping, you're eating, you're exercising, you're managing your stress, you're doing all of these things, and that scale is just not budging. There are physiological reasons in your body why that might not be happening. So if you've readjusted your expectations, okay, and you're going, yeah, well, I was on weight loss and I haven't lost 2 kilos yet by this stage of cracker, 1.5 to 2 kilos. I haven't lost that yet. So maybe this applies to me. I'll give you guys some reasons, okay? Number 1, Carly did a great post on this today. Hormones, ladies, hormones. Let me talk to you about hormones. If you've come into cracker and your body is out of whack, your cycle's out of whack, perhaps you're estrogen dominant, perhaps you've got heavy bleeds, there's all these things going on, you've got heavy PMS, your body is going to fluctuate weight according to your hormones. So 2 different types, 2 different times of the month, right? And simply speaking, at one time of the month, we're more estrogen dominant, and at another time of the month, we're more progesterone dominant. Well, here's the thing. When our estrogen is rising and we're about to ovulate, estrogen is a natural appetite suppressant. So often around that time, we'll find it easier to fast. We'll be a little bit leaner, particularly when we get a little testosterone boost. We'll be feeling our best. Then as we come into ovulation, your body's going to retain a little bit of water because that's just what happens, okay? But generally speaking, in that phase of our cycle, we might find that we're not as hungry. When you've got progesterone going through your body, ladies, you're hungry all the time because your body thinks that there's a baby coming and it hasn't realized yet that there's no baby coming this month. So you're hungry no matter what you eat. You're hungry all the time. It's normal, okay? In addition to that, you are going to retain fluid at that time of the month. It is completely normal. So that's why we talk about averages on cracker. I'm talking to you guys about that overall picture of the last 4 weeks, not the minute sort of day by day on the scales. So something to take into consideration before you have a panic attack about jumping on the scales and seeing that number change is, where are you at in your cycle? That will dictate a lot, okay? You can fluctuate. I've seen clients in my practice fluctuate like 3-4 kilos with their cycle. The more your cycle regulates, the healthier you eat, the more you train, the more you sleep, and the better that your hormones start to regulate, the less fluctuation you will have every month. Okay, that's the first thing. Second thing, guys, I covered this last week. Sleep is a big one when it comes to weight loss, okay? Sleep is the master controller of all of our hormones. If you are not sleeping and if you are not having adequate rest days, you are in cortisol overrun. Cortisol is our stress hormone and it makes us store fat. If you're in cortisol overrun because you're overtraining, undersleeping, under-recovering, you definitely are not going to see the benefit on the scales. If that sounds like you, if you think you might be a culprit, I want you to have 2 nights where you go to bed at 8:30. I want you to dial back your training for a couple of days, and I just want you to breathe and bring those stress levels down, and then have a look at what happens to your weight loss, okay? The next thing, guys, is gut health. There are certain strains of bacteria in our gut that can actually cause us to retain weight or put on weight from the same amount of food as another person. If you have gut health and digestive issues, this is something I do in my practice every day. You can actually be what's called more feed efficient than another person. You extract more calories from food than the average person. So that's possible when your gut bugs are out of whack. But for cracker, if you're constipated, if you've got lots of stuff sticking in your bowel, that's going to weigh something on the scales. So take that into consideration. When I weighed myself this morning, was my bowel fully empty the same way that it was last time? Or have I got some excess in there? Did I have a really big feed of sweet potato, loaded sweet potatoes last night? That counts. If you're constipated, guys, a couple of little tips: you can add some ground flax seeds in water, a tablespoon of ground flax seeds in water, and go back to having lots of raw crunchy slaws and extra electrolytes. Take some magnesium, that will help to clear out your gut. So that's a reason why you might not have seen what you wanted on the scales, okay? A couple of other things in there, guys. We got to talk about it. Calories in, calories out. I hate saying it, but let's be honest with ourselves at this point of cracker. Are we over consuming? Are we eating when we're hungry? Are we stopping when we're full? Or are we on the way to the kitchen having a little snack off of the tray before we put the sweet potato fries away? Are we shoveling a few more into our mouths? Let's have a think about whether, I know we're following the meal plan, but are the portion sizes too big for what you need? Are you full 75% of the way through your meal but eating it anyway? That's something that you can have a look at and play with, okay? And the snacking and the treats, we've talked about that. And going into stage 3, if that's you, you've got the option to try something like fasting, or just dial back to only eating when you're hungry, stop when you're full, okay? That's really funny, Kira, that the gastro's been going around. Don't think anybody's constipated in Port Hedland at the moment. We've talked about cortisol, guys, your stress hormone. If you are stressed at work, if you're stressed because you're overtraining and under recovering, if you're stressed because you've got negative thought processes going on in your head, if you're stressed because you're staying up late at night, if any of those things are happening for you, cortisol is a fat storage machine. If you don't get a lid on your cortisol levels, you're going to struggle to see results. Best way to do that: breathing, walks in the fresh air, early nights, actively bringing yourself down, okay? I'm pretty sure that Kylie's done some great mental health stuff for you guys. Really dial into that if you feel like your stress levels are high. Cortisol is a big inhibitor for weight loss, okay? Hydration, guys, here's a big one. If you're drinking 4 or 5 liters of water a day, that's not ideal. You should be drinking about 3 liters of water a day, maybe 4. But when you get to the stage where you're drinking 4 or 5 liters, your body doesn't need more water, it needs more electrolytes. You're going to be retaining that water. So adding in your electrolytes, making sure that you're functionally hydrated, that's a huge one when it comes to weight loss too. Medications, guys, that's a big one. If you're on medications, they can interfere with your ability to lose weight, particularly girls. Contraceptive devices, the IUD, here's or birth control pill, or the Mirena. I talk to my clients in my practice about this. When we use contraceptive devices, what they do to our metabolism is they reduce our BMR, which is our metabolic rate, by 30%. That means they slow our metabolism by up to 30%. So on average, if that's you and your metabolism has slowed down by up to 30% as a result of your contraception or your birth control, then you need to eat 30% less than the average person because your metabolic rate is lower. How do we fix that, right? The way to fix that is to increase your muscle mass, because by increasing your muscle mass, you raise your metabolic rate. How do we increase our muscle mass? We have to gain. And that becomes a mindset for you of understanding that you might need to gain the muscle before you can lose the fat in order to raise your metabolic rate in your body so that it can actually burn fat. So things like thyroid, contraceptive devices, medications, even antidepressants, there's a lot of things in our body that can slow our metabolic rate. And the way to do it is through cracker. By eating healthy food, by gaining the muscle, you will eventually start to be able to drop the fat easier. But it might take you longer than the average person because you have that slower metabolic rate. So these are things that you have to take into account when you're looking at your goals and go, okay, that's not really working for me right now, but look at my body scan. I gained X amount of muscle, which means if I continue this lifestyle, then by next year, I'm going to be a fat burning machine and I'll raise my metabolic rate. So there are things that you really need to consider there, guys. So those are the reasons, some of the reasons why our bodies can be a little bit more sluggish to lose weight. Okay, so look at your gut health. Are you constipated? Are you sleeping? Are you properly hydrated? Do you have a lid on your cortisol and your stress levels? Be honest with yourself about your calories. Are you eating too much? Are you overeating at meals, or are you over snacking? Your hormones and your cycle. Where are you at in your cycle? Are you someone that suffers from hormonal imbalances? Do you take medication? Do you have an IUD in? Do you have a thyroid issue? So there's lots and lots and lots of different things that go in the bucket of why weight loss can be tricky. But there's so many other things that we can celebrate for wins. And I want to get away from the subject of numbers, and I want to talk about now what I call, Fiona, I'll talk to you about fasting in a minute. I want to talk, in my practice, I call these non-scale wins. This is so important for mindset, you guys. I'm going to talk about some of the non-scale wins. And then I have a challenge for you guys. I want someone who's listening tonight to start a post after my live. I want you to title it Non-Scale Wins, and I want you to ask your fellow crackers what their favorite non-scale win has been. Okay, so I'm going to give you some examples, and then I want you guys to do a post and motivate your community to start celebrating some of the amazing things that are happening for you, okay? Many of you have lost a ton of weight, which is absolutely amazing, but that's not everything, okay? So let's talk about non-scale wins for a minute. First of all, our moods. Who's feeling happier? Hands up. Who's feeling like they're not as blue anymore, not as sad, not as irritable all the time? So those mood changes are significant because not only do they impact all the people around us, like our husbands and our children and our work colleagues, but they impact us and how we feel about ourselves. When we're feeling happier, when we're feeling a bit more bubbly and bright, that has a huge impact on the way that we speak to ourselves. So mood is a huge one in terms of a win on Cracker, okay? Who's sleeping better? There must be loads of you guys out there that came into Cracker completely sleep deprived, and now you're getting quality, restorative, deep sleep. Isn't that amazing, right? Definitely something to be celebrated. What about gut health? Who has improved their digestive system? Who's not feeling bloated anymore? Who's not feeling like they're uncomfortable after meals? Who's going to the bathroom more regularly? That's definitely a huge win that says that your body is healing. What about the way your clothes fit? What about that dress? Lisa posted a gorgeous post today just about how she went to try on her shorts and they felt so much better. What about that? What about those things that you wear that are really uncomfortable and they make you feel so awful about yourself? Have you tried them on? You know, celebrate that. Go and buy yourself a new dress for the end of Cracker or for the Christmas party. What about your body scans, guys? What's that saying about the composition of your body? These are huge, huge, huge wins. Particularly, I want to talk about organ fat and visceral fat because we get very caught up in aesthetics. And of course, it's important to us to lose the weight, to feel better about ourselves, to look good. We all have those moments where we feel like that. But when you have lots of organ fat and visceral fat, your disease markers are through the roof. That is such a poor health indicator. And when you see those numbers start to shift on your body scan, or when you start to reduce the fat around your liver or around your heart or around your kidneys or around your gut, that's when your body starts to function better. And sometimes your body's going to prioritize which fat it loses first. If you've got fatty liver disease, your body might decide that it's going to clean that liver out long before it loses the fat on your arms. So have a look at that as well. Your organ fat is a really, really big one, because that means that your disease markers are coming down, and that's really something to celebrate. Okay? What about function and performance in the gym? Remember the first cracker session that you did and you nearly died and it was so hard and you think, oh my God, how am I going to do 6 weeks of this? Well, that was 4 weeks ago. How are you feeling now? Are you lifting heavier? Are you getting through your workouts easier? Are you recovering better? Are you looking forward to your training? How has your performance improved from eating the food that you've eaten? So that's a huge non-scale win that you guys can really think about. This one I love. What about the impact that you eating healthy has had on the people around you? Healthy families. I've seen so many beautiful posts of kids eating healthy, husbands that are cooking all these beautiful healthy meals. What about the ripple effect that you're creating for yourself, for your family, for your loved ones, your friends, your work colleagues? Just think about all the people that you're inspiring by doing this, and that's a huge win in itself. And my last one for you guys is imagine your blood markers. Well, most of the clients who work with me, I'll send them for some routine blood tests, and we'll have a look at those markers, and then we'll repeat those blood tests in 6 weeks' time and have a look at the improvement, because that's the indicator of how well your body is actually doing. So these are things that I want you guys to take away tonight, and I want you to really, at this point of Cracker, go, I've been doing this for a month. These are all the things that I've achieved. Yes, I've lost some weight, or no, I haven't lost any weight. But what about sleep? What about mood? What about inspiring my family? What about my disease markers? What about my gut health? What about my periods? Maybe that's so much better every month. Maybe I'm not getting such bad PMS. What about my moods? How about how I'm performing in the gym? How much better I'm functioning? I'm on track to that race that I want to do, or I can see that goal is achievable for me. So let's really, really start to celebrate those wins as well. Okay? Does anyone have any comments or questions at that point? Lee asked, how many electrolytes per day and when's the best time to take them? Lee, if you're using the capsules, it's a maximum of 7 a day. I really recommend about 3 or 4. And the best time to take them is at varying intervals during the day, definitely before and after your workout. I like to do one before bed as well. Fiona asked, is it better to do fasting or just stick to the meal plan? Fiona, I think I've covered this. If you're doing weight loss, you can certainly try fasting if you're wanting to kick it into another gear. Fasting's not a big scary thing. Like I said, it's purely just giving your body a shorter time to eat food and a longer time to burn fat. That's all it is. I would say on days where you wake up in the morning and you're not that hungry, if you're doing weight loss, if you wake up in the morning, you're not that hungry, just wait until mid-morning to have your breakfast. That's all, or wait until 12 o'clock to have your breakfast. If you wake up in the morning and you're starving hungry, that's not a day to do fasting. So let's see if anybody else has questions. Guys, pop down your questions. I've got a couple more things to cover on weight loss and muscle gains. Does anybody have any questions on strength? Because we haven't talked that much about that. Just pop them down and I'll come back to them. Something to touch on. With Cracker, talking about our expectations, okay? So we know now that we realistically can only aim for 500 grams a week if we want it to be sustainable. If we're getting more than that, then that's awesome. If you're getting less than that, we've talked about some of the reasons why that you can explore. But if you're around about 500 grams a week on average, some weeks will be less, some weeks will be more, then you're pretty much nailing it as far as we're concerned on Cracker and weight loss, okay? So we've talked about that. But what I want to talk to you guys about is how difficult it is for your body to simultaneously burn fat and gain muscle, okay? You guys that have been doing hypertrophy or strength training for a long time will know this. You will know the conundrum that exists between, do I cut fat or do I build muscle? It's really hard to do them both at once. Not impossible, but it's really hard. And Cracker is only a 6-week program. You've got to think about your goals as a little bit more longer term than that. So during Cracker, you might be able to go the weight loss route, which is why we choose between weight loss and strength or weight loss and hypertrophy. It's very difficult to do both. So you can't go, oh, well, I'll do fasting and I'll do hypertrophy at the same time, or, oh, I'll lose weight and I'll build a ton of muscle. You'll certainly build some muscle, but it's very difficult to have two goals together. So you kind of got to pick one and go with it. The reason for that is because the two processes in the body are completely different, right? Weight loss is a catabolic process. It's a process of breaking down fat cells, losing all the unnecessary baggage and weight. Muscle building is an anabolic process. It's a growing process. So we feed that process. We don't train fasted. It's a growing process, whereas weight loss is a cutting process. So it's very difficult, guys, for you to look at your results and try to compare and go, well, I want to build muscle and cut fat at the same time. You might have to pick one. You'll usually get an overlap of one and the other. So of course you're going to lose fat and you're going to build some muscle, but you can't have both goals as your main goals. You've got to have one or the other as the main goal. Does that make sense to you guys? And that's purely just because it's difficult. So for your body to do both at the same time, you're either eating lots and growing muscle and lifting heavy things, or you're sort of in weight loss mode. And of course, like I said, there will be an overlap, but you can't have two main goals. You've got to pick one, okay? The only way to really know, guys, is going to be on your body scans. You're going to look at your body scans and you're going to see all these amazing results that your body has got, okay? So on that note, we really want to encourage you guys to stick to your training plans and stick to what you've chosen, stick to your nutrition plans at this point. Don't deviate. Don't go completely crazy on the cardio in the last 2 weeks thinking that it's going to make a huge difference. Just focus on the training plan that's been set out for you. Focus on the nutrition plan that you're following. Focus on the handout that I gave you for weight loss or for strength, and just dial it up a notch. Just go, yeah, I'm going to try fasting, or yep, I'm going to add in maybe an extra gym session, or yep, I'm going to really prioritize my sleep, and bring it all together and drive it home. But there's no need to change your goals or jump ship or start doing anything too crazy at this point, okay? Kate said, if fasting, can you still wait till mid-morning for brekkie if you've trained in the morning? Kate, yes, absolutely, if you're doing weight loss. So fasting is just for weight loss, and absolutely you can train fasted. That's totally fine, okay? It's a bit of an experimental process. If you train fasted and you've never done it before, you might feel really depleted afterwards and need a protein shake. That's okay. Try again another time. But you definitely can train fasted and wait until mid-morning. Like I mentioned, if you're not wanting to lose any of your muscle, I really recommend while you're fasting, guys, please, you must be taking electrolytes and aminos if you don't want to lose your muscle. Okay, you can get plenty of those at the clubs. Stacey said, I'm tracking food and exercise in my fitness pal following weight loss cracker plan. What percentage of protein, fats and carbs? Can I eat too much protein, even staying under calorie count for the day? Stacey, that was all outlined in the handout that I gave you. Did you get a handout for weight loss? Can you just let me know? If you're tracking, that's great, but your macros, please don't worry about the fats. You're just aiming for 1 to 2 tablespoons a meal. With your carbs for weight loss, you're somewhere around that 50 to 75 grams, depending on your level of activity. And for your protein, also outlined in there, 1.8 kilos per kilo of body weight. Roughly for an average female, it's around about 110 grams of protein a day. But it's all detailed in your weight loss handout in there. So on that, guys, we want to encourage you to just, look back at your last 4 weeks and really celebrate the scale wins, the non-scale wins, how you're feeling, the fact that you've made it this far, the fact that you're still with us. We want you to refocus for the next 2 weeks. we're not over the finish line yet. We're getting close. We want you to drive it home towards your goals. We don't want you to do anything crazy or anything too different. We want you to reach out to each other for support, lift each other up and motivate each other. And just remember that the theme of Cracker is wellness. It's not a weight loss program. It's not a muscle gaining program. We want everyone to feel well at the end of it. We want fit, functional bodies that have come out of Cracker happier, healthier, more functional than before. We want you to be happy with how you're feeling within yourself. We want you to know that your wins are just as significant as anybody else's. You don't need to lose the weight or do the same as someone else to still be successful at this program. If you have purely just inspired your family to eat better, then you've won. If you have just been able to go to the gym where you didn't go to the gym before, then you've won. If you've just been able to make these meals from the meal plan and nourish your body without any other physical results, you've still won by doing that, okay? If you've lost weight and you're feeling amazing and you're well on track to your goals, then you've totally won. So we are here to celebrate every single one of you guys. We are so proud of you. We can't wait to spend the last 2 weeks helping you guys get to the finish line. Who's got questions? Chuck them in, guys. That's everything I've got for you on weight loss, okay? Hopefully that has helped some of you. Hopefully it gives you a few things to think about. Guys, my website is www.paradigmshiftnutrition.com. You can follow me there, follow me on my socials. You can book in to see me anytime. I've got loads of information, loads of inspo for you guys. If you think that I'm speaking your language and there might be some underlying issues, or you want to dive into your nutrition, the function of your body, what's going on a little bit more, you can always reach out to see me. Okay, I just feel really honored to guide you guys. I think you're all doing an amazing job. And yeah, who's going to do the post and see if we can get some non-scale wins celebrated? Oh, you're welcome, Fiona. No worries. I hope you guys feel motivated. We've got nearly 50 of us on the live tonight. Hopefully you guys are feeling inspired. You're feeling motivated. I think I had written on here, for those of you who do feel like you've plateaued or stalled, couple of strategies for you. We talked about fasting as an option. Another option for you, if you're wanting to kind of shake it up a bit, if you feel like things have plateaued, another option for you is to increase what I call your NEAT. Your NEAT is non-exercise activity. That's the exercise that you're doing when you're not at the gym exercising. So hanging the laundry, going for a walk along the beach, walking to the post office, doing the gardening, anything that keeps you active and on your feet during the day, not just your 45 window of exercise. That all helps to burn extra calories safely. So increase your NEAT, which is your exercise when you're not exercising. Sleep, guys. Seriously, prioritize your sleep. Don't overlook it. If you've had a couple of late nights, make up for it. Go to bed early and notice the difference to your weight loss and how lean you feel. Celebrate your non-scale wins. We talked about that. And look at your gut health, guys. That's a really big one. If you are backed up and constipated, then taking some extra magnesium can really help. The flax seeds for the fiber, like I talked about, can really help. Increasing your consumption of raw slaws like cabbage, coleslaws, kale, broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, all those brassica veggies are really good for cleaning out your gut. So extra water and clean out a bit, that will really help. And getting a lid on those stress and cortisol levels, making sure that you're taking time to recover and stay properly hydrated. Rachel, you're so welcome. Honey, I hope that really helps for you. And guys, we're definitely not discounting the fact that for a small percentage of us, there can just be stubborn issues in the body that mean that we don't always get the results that we exactly want. But for the most of us, there are plenty of things on our list that we can celebrate, okay? And I'm there to work with you guys after Cracker if there's things that you want to explore. Kerry, can you take too much Hydrolyte? Hydrolyte I don't recommend for anybody because it's got sugar in, but for electrolytes, the ones that we're using for Cracker, which are in your club, the maximum is 7 a day. But for Hydrolyte, I would avoid it because it's got sugar if you can. Otherwise, Kiri, if you've got access to nothing else, then I wouldn't do more than one a day on those ones. You're so welcome, guys. I'm going to sign off now. Time for bed, and we will see you online tomorrow. Good night, everyone.